Well, hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Book Talk Tuesdays. I'm Miss Jessica. I'm one of the youth and teen librarians at the Chelsea District Library, and I have a special guest here with me today.
Hello, everyone. I am Miss Elisabeth. Some of you know me as Mrs. Seymour. I do lots of different things. You have seen me at preschool. You've seen me after school, at North Creek doing arts and eats. You've seen me at Camp Gabika. You've seen me at Chelsea First Congregational Church. I do all kinds of things. So I'm excited to be here with Miss Jessica.
Yeah, and I'm really excited too. I usually see Miss Elisabeth at the library probably 3 days a week, if not more. And we always love to talk about books, and I think we're going to have some really fun ones to share with you today because we have books that are all about animals. So if you are an animal lover, a dog lover, a raccoon lover, you are going to love the books we have here for you today. So if you are interested in these books, you can actually check them out from the library through curbside pickup, and some of them are even available as ebooks and audiobooks through the ebook app Libby and Hoopla. And I will give you more information at the end if you need help contacting the library to get those apps set up. So I'm going to start with my first book, and we actually have 2 old books and 4 brand new books. So my first old book is called Rascal by Sterling North. It's one of my favorite books ever. I love this book so much. This book was written in 1963, and it won the Newbery Honor Award that year, which means it was one of the very best books for kids written that year. And it actually takes place in 1918 to 1919, so just over 100 years ago. And this book is a little bit different because it is an account of the author's childhood memoirs. So Sterling North, these are true events that happened to him as a child, and he wrote a fictionalized account of them. And his childhood was a little bit different. His mother died when he was younger, and his father kind of leaves him alone to explore the wilderness and the woods around his hometown in Wisconsin. So he's on his own a lot. And he comes across an abandoned raccoon kit, a baby raccoon, and decides to bring the raccoon home and raise him. His name is Rascal. That's what he names the raccoon. This book is a lot of fun. If you love a good dog book, Rascal, although he's a raccoon, acts a lot like a dog. He loves to do things like sneak inside and sleep in Sterling's bed with him, just like a puppy would. It's also a really, really funny book too. So one of my favorite scenes is when Sterling's older sister Theo comes home for a visit, and she is absolutely dismayed of this huge canoe that Sterling and his father are building in the middle of the living room. She doesn't even notice that Rascal's lying on the fur rug until he pops up and scares the wits out of her. So if you like a funny book, if you like a dog book, if you want to learn all about how to raise a baby raccoon from the wild, you definitely need to check out Rascal.
That sounds like a really fun book. I like Rascal a lot. And it's really similar, actually, to the one that I'm talking about, which is a read aloud that I've been reading aloud to my children every single summer since they were old enough to listen to it. And it's by Farley Mowat, and it's called Owls in the Family. And it was also written a while ago, back in 1961. And it's also about Farley Mowat's childhood experience. He's written lots of different books, and you might have read or heard about a book that he wrote about his dog, Mutt. Well, he also had 2 owls. Can you imagine having 2 owls? It's awesome. It's so much fun. Not only is it a fun and hilarious written book of all these adventures that these owls have with Farley and his friends, but it's also just incredible to think about being out in nature and collecting animals the way that Farley Mowat did with his family and his friends. Now, Wool is the larger animal, which was rescued from a storm-wrecked tree. And Farley was able to raise him and take care of him all the way through. And Wool, he thinks he's a human. Yeah, he walks around. He finally figures out how to fly, but he rather not because, well, all my humans are walking. Why would I fly with my humans if I'm a human here? He's hilarious. Now his counterpart is Weeps. And just like his name sounds, Weeps is a kind of a little sad owl.
Aw.
He was rescued when he was little too, but before Farley got to him, some mean kids had him and did some not so very nice things to him. And so it's kind of how Farley talks about it is that his spirit was broken. And so Weeps is always kind of hesitant. He's not so sure about adventures. He's not so sure. He wants to be right next to Wool as much as he can be. Sometimes Mutt, because Mutt takes pretty good care of him, even though Wool, there are hilarious stories in there about Wool tormenting Mutt because Wool, his favorite activity was to go and tease that dog. There's also stories about Wool thinking it's a great idea to bring Skunk to dinner, right to the dinner table.
No, thank you.
It's a great book. You should definitely check it out.
That sounds awesome. I haven't read that one myself, but I do love books like that. So I think I might have to put that on my reading list for sure. So my next book is actually by a very seasoned author, Avi. He has written a new book in the Poppy series. It's called Ragweed and Poppy. It's his first book in this series in more than 10 years. So even though the series is a little bit older, this particular book is brand new. It's actually a prequel, so it happens before most of the other Poppy books. And it explains how Poppy and Ragweed have met for the first time. And it plays a little bit on the fable of city mouse, country mouse. So if you're familiar with that story, you will notice some similar themes in Ragweed and Poppy. Ragweed has just left the city. He hops aboard a train. He's headed out to the country. He's done with that city life. And he encounters a young raccoon, another raccoon named Lotar. And Lotar needs help. He's been separated from his mother. And Ragweed decides he will help him. So that's how he ends up in Dimwood Forest. He helps Lotar, and then he's about to set off on his own again when he hears somebody calling for help. And he follows the sound of the voice, and it turns out to be a young mouse stuck in a trap. And that mouse is Poppy. That's how they meet. So you'll have to read this book and see if Ragweed's able to rescue Poppy. See if maybe Lotar shows back up again. You know, maybe. He definitely does. And see what else happens on their adventures. Here's Olivia, my cat. I love the Ragweed and Poppy books because Avi is a fantastic writer. His writing style cannot be beat. He's won many awards. But the content of this series is great for younger readers. So if you have a younger reader who has a very high reading level, I definitely recommend the Poppy series and especially this newer book, Ragweed and Poppy.
All right, mine is also really good for younger readers, I think, as well. It's called The Littlest Voyager, and it's a really fun book. It's about the squirrel who dreams of being a voyager. Nothing would be better than being a voyager. Now, hold on, let me tell you, it was written by Marjorie Proyce. So there's this little squirrel, and he dreams of being a voyager, and he actually stows away into one of the canoes of the voyagers. And well, you know what, voyagers, there's kind of a rule. You've got to carry your own stuff. You've got to paddle when you're paddling. You've got to take your turn cooking. And well, this little squirrel, he's not doing any of that stuff. In fact, sometimes he has to actually be carried along with all the stuff that's being ported. That's not so cool with the voyagers, except for one. He's a very nice gentleman, decides, all right, I'll take pity on this little squirrel and I'll help him out. So along with his friend, he ends up being able to get the whole 1,200 miles up to trade.
Wow.
But what do they trade? They trade furs. This little squirrel had no idea that the voyagers were trading furs of his other animals like him. Oh, this just destroys his dream. He can't be a voyager. He can't be helping people take furs from the animals of the forest. Maybe he could change their mind. Or maybe he could do voyaging in a different way. You got to read it and find out what he does. It's a great story.
That sounds awesome. And you know, in this area of our country around Michigan, there's so many lakes and rivers and the Great Lakes system. Voyagers were not unknown in these parts. Certainly, they're very common around here. So the last book I have it's very different than these other ones. It's a little bit silly. It's called Incredibly Dead Pets of Rex Dexter by Aaron Reynolds. So Rex is absolutely desperate to get himself a pet. He thinks that a chocolate Labrador retriever would be the ideal pet for him. He is just set on that. He asks his parents every day. I'm sure there's more than a couple kids in Chelsea who have had the same conversation over and over with their parents too. So his parents kind of give in and they let him get a chicken as a practice pet. And that doesn't go so well. A little over an hour later, the chicken is dead. It's been run over by a steamroller. And Rex has sort of accidentally made a deal with the Grim Reaper. And the ghost of that chicken has appeared in his bedroom. So really, really not going well at all. And the chicken's calling Rex his bestie. So he's really attached to Rex, even though they've only known each other for a short time. A short time later, the ghosts of a rhinoceros and a gorilla with a shark attached to his booty also appear. And Rex comes to learn that something nefarious is happening at the zoo. And it's up to him to figure out what is going on and solve the mystery before any more dead animals show up in his bedroom. As you can tell, this is a little bit absurd. This book is very funny. It's a little bit snarky and very, very entertaining. And you might recognize the author's name, Aaron Reynolds. He wrote the picture books Creepy Pair of Underwear and Creepy Carrot. And he's also done some graphic novel work too. So if you love funny books and love animals, you are going to love this book as well.
That sounds hilarious. I have not read that at all, but that sounds like a really fun book to read.
I laughed out loud several times.
The book that I have, the last book for me, is Harvey Comes Home, and it's by Colleen Nelson. This is not a humorous book. There's parts of it that are fun, like it's a really good story, but it's more of a serious story. Harvey gets out. He loves to chase things. He loves to follow his nose. And a sitter, when his family goes on vacation, the dog sitter forgets to latch the gate, and Harvey gets out.
No.
And Harvey follows his nose across town. He's trying to find his way back home, but he really can't. He ends up being found by a boy named Austin, who is probably a middle schooler who's gotten himself into a little bit of trouble. Mostly because he was trying to fit in, trying to make kids think he was cool, but he made a bad choice. And in doing so, he has now landed himself a job after school working at a place where older people live. And in this process, he finds Harvey and he brings Harvey in, and he kind of lies about who Harvey is. And Harvey ends up kind of being like a therapy dog. That's what Austin says, that this dog is a therapy dog. So then Harvey's allowed to stay at this home for the elderly people. But Maggie, Harvey's original owner, well, she's still looking for Harvey and still desperately wants Harvey back. And this book, I love, it's all narrative driven. And it's all these different perspectives. So you get to hear Harvey's voice, you get to see the story from Maggie's voice, you get to see it from Austin's voice. And then my favorite part, okay, so let me tell you this. Honestly, when I first started reading this book, I was in for a couple chapters and I was like, I don't know that I'm going to like this book. Like, I almost was like, I'm going to put this down and come back to it later. Well, I'm really glad that I kept reading, because once I got really into the story, Austin meets this gentleman called Mr. Pickering. And Mr. Pickering is a grumpy old guy. But because of Harvey and Austin, they kind of win over Mr. Pickering. And they get to hear this incredible story of Mr. Pickering's life when he was a child. And oh my word, from that point on, I just kept reading. In fact, my kids were like wanting to go to the beach. And I was like, yeah, just a minute. We'll go in just a minute. Yeah, we'll go in just a minute. I couldn't put it down after that. So yeah, check it out. Harvey Comes Home. It's a great one.
I love books like that. So that sounds like a good one that you can just push through the first, maybe, what do you think, 2 or 3 chapters? And then it really starts to pick up. Good, good. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed hearing all of these awesome animal books today, where there are some good ones to add to your to-be-read list for sure. And thank you so much, Miss Elisabeth, for joining me today and talking about books.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was so much fun to be able to share information about these books. And I really do hope you all check these out or even get them online. They're great reads.
For sure. Thank you. So if you would like some more information about how to put these books on hold for curbside pickup, or how to download the Libby or Hoopla apps to read the ebooks or listen to the digital audiobooks, you can email a librarian at ref@chelseadistrictlibrary.org, or give us a call at 734-475-8732, extension 219, and we'll help you out. Thanks for watching.